a grateful heart, right, is what this 21 days Bible study is about. We're trying to cultivate thankfulness above and beyond or despite our circumstances. And I appreciate the honesty. I feel the same way. There are so many things, and you were saying there's so many things that it's just awful, and you can't give thanks for them. But the scripture is talking to us about giving thanks in those situations.
Yeah.
So we don't love death, but we give thanks for the life that person had.
Right. Which is such a huge difference because, and we were talking about this just minorly, but
Mm-hmm.
when you credit to God things that He didn't say, right? First
Yeah.
of all, it's kind of hard enough to give up your pride and all that kind of stuff,
Yeah.
and go with God for the things that He does say. And then, but when you credit to
Yeah.
Him things that He didn't say, right? Which is so easy to do, we all do it. It's just that much harder, right? And so if I'm starting to think that I need to be thankful for everything, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we mentioned we had a friend die recently, and I'm not thankful for that, right? I'm thankful that he's with Jesus. I'm thankful that he, will have a resurrected new body. I'm thankful for all this
He's no
good
longer
stuff.
sick and suffering.
But I am not thankful for him being gone.
No.
And I'm not thankful that the relationships that he had are no longer there with his grandkids, with his family.
Sure.
I'm not thankful for that.
Right.
And that's okay. Right. In fact, we talk, when we talk and we mention our creeds and stuff, we're talking about how we're so grateful that Jesus has died and beaten sin, death, and the devil.
Right.
Right. Because death is an awful, awful thing. And so I think it's just that value of what you're saying, right? I'm going to be thankful in the midst of this, right? I'm still thankful to God. I don't resent God for that, right? I'm thankful to Him for Him defeating death,
right?
And that this person is not gone. You know what I mean? Maybe we don't get to talk to him or see him for a little while, but they're not. It's not over, and that is just amazing.
Right.
That's fantastic.
So let's link up a couple concepts. Because it's not just a mandate. It is a mandate to give thanks in all circumstances. Right. It's a mandate. But it's not an easy thing to just say, well, okay, I give up, I'll do that. But couple it with reality.
Yeah.
And here's what I'm saying. The word also says that He works all things for the good of those who love Him.
Yeah.
So, can He work a confusing election for the good of those who love Him? Yes. Can He work the death of a loved one for the good of those remaining who love Him? Yes.
Right.
Can He work the most awful circumstances you can imagine for good? Yes.
Right.
We're so human, we can't imagine that most of the time.
Right.
We can't.
Right.
We can't imagine an awful illness being worked for the good of those who love Him.
Right. Well, this is, and we'll jump back at some point to the reading because you were hitting on that a little bit before we get started too.
Right.
But this is, I think, just to go off on what the other thing we were talking about, which was Jeremiah 29:11, right? We really start to think that, this life is about having as enjoyable and comfortable of a life here as possible, right?
Well, I hope
isn't that to some degree it's why we get so concerned about the elections and stuff, right? We want things to be convenient, fun, good, easy here, which is a good thing to want. We should want that. We should want fairness, and we shouldn't want people getting sick, and we shouldn't want people dying, and we shouldn't want people to be unwealthy and uncared for and whatever. We should want people to have good things. But when we think about that being the absolute end, right? We're all going to die. And the value, right? And when God says, hey, I'm going to work this for the good of those who love me, that might include you dying. In fact, it certainly will include you dying at some point.
It's appointed one time for me to do that.
But still, even death will not defeat you.
Right.
Right. And so even if this leads to pain and suffering. I mean, you know, you look at somebody like Stephen, right? He loved God.
Oh
He
yeah,
loved Jesus, and he was stoned to death.
he was killed brutally.
But he is in heaven, and he's saved,
Right.
and he was even able to do some good through that. And so, I think when you start to look at that passage, you start to say the goal is to have as many people loved and knowing Christ's love
Totally.
and being saved as possible.
Totally.
A good, enjoyable life is something we should also strive for here, for us and for other people. But the primary, right, is that eternal life.
So think about, and we were talking again right before it was recorded. Jeremiah 29:11 is like this, a flashlight in this completely dark sequence of passages where God is reprimanding Israel.
Right.
There's two good things about that. One, God is speaking to them.
Right.
So he's not so mad that he turned his back.
Oh, yeah, that's a good point.
Okay? So he's speaking to them.
Right.
What he has to say, actually what he has to say is something that we touched on in Psalm 118. In the middle of Psalm 118, I think David wrote it, but anyway, it says, you reprimand me harshly,
yeah,
but you don't walk away from me.
Yeah.
Well, I give thanks for that. I don't love it.
Yeah.
But I give thanks for that because he didn't walk away. He doesn't leave me.
Right.
Okay. So there's
Oof.
that. Right.
Big one, man. That's good.
There's that. And then there is, God's really saying, and he's unpacking not the plans, but he's saying, here is what I'm about. I know the plans I have for you. And then he describes them. Plans to prosper you, which we probably translate not as well as could be, because prosper, we think, oh, well, he's going to, work everything in my benefit, or I'm going to be financially secure, or whatever.
Exactly. Right.
It's not, it's you will benefit from knowing him. It won't always look the way you imagine. Right? But he's going to prosper you. He's going to grow you.
Right.
And not to harm you.
Right. Just a good reminder.
Then he's going to give you a hope, and we've already established that's really Jesus,
mm-hmm.
right? And a future. Now imagine that. Prosper, no harm, hope, future. Like, what else could you really ask for? I mean, think of the broad concepts. What on earth are you saying? Well, but what else?
Yeah.
Like, I couldn't do that.
Yeah.
A future? That's a guarantee that I will live on.
Right.
That's all I need.
It's tough. I mean, it's tough to remember, and it's tough to look at. And yeah, I mean, Jeremiah 29:11 is often one of the ones I think we can like rant about, right?
Yeah.
So to tie that in, right, a little bit to this week's and what we're talking about, and you were hitting on it a little bit, but I think one of the ways that we remember that God provides, because it's hard to remember that God provides, is by looking at the things that He does.
Yeah.
Right. And so as we were looking at this week, it was a little bit more of the smaller things. It was a little bit and a little bit more of the mind things, I guess I would say a little bit, right? Like what you're focusing on, what you're thinking about.
That was definitely part of it.
So as you were thinking about this week, were there things that were standing out, especially?
So, okay. I think that it's hard to express what I'm trying to say. Frequently, I find myself thanking God for an odd number of things.
Uh-huh.
I remember a friend of mine who's a worship leader and also a pastor. He gave a sermon one time that I heard where he and his family had bought a new house, and they moved in, and it had a garage door opener. And they'd never had one of those before. And the Lord spoke to him at some point about this house and about that garage door opener, and it reminded him every time he used his garage door opener, he thanked God for a garage door opener. Now that sounds kind of small in a way, but it was a reminder, and it helped point him to Jesus somewhere. And so I think of his story, and I think when I use my garage door opener, I do the same thing. I have a friend who, every time he finds a penny on the ground, he stops to pray.
Yeah.
And so he told me one time, yeah, so when I find a penny on the ground, I stop and pray. I'm like, you know what? I could do that. Well, now when I see a penny on the ground, I do the same thing.
Yeah.
Often I pray for that friend.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, I don't know what to pray about. Right? So I love and thank God for these little reminders. Just different ways that I'm like, oh yeah, and it jogs my memory to thank God. And then I thank God for some of those huge, like, I'm grateful for the gift of music. And I just don't understand it. I mean, as a science, I sort of do understand it. But as a gift and as a created thing, I'm mystified. Wow, God, who can imagine sound like that? Only God.
Yeah.
I thank him for music because it's a huge gift for me.
Yeah.
Right? And it's something he's invited me into.
Yeah.
I'm grateful.
Yeah.
Because I feel like I would be a lot more lost without it.
Yeah.
So yeah, from garage door openers and pennies on the ground to something huge, a huge concept like music, I'm thankful. Now, it doesn't mean I have a thankful heart all the time.
Right.
But it means there are times when I'm reminded. Right.
And I think that's that's the value of the plan that we're doing, and that's the value of trying to focus on the different things that are there. Is that, man? So somebody mentioned praying before you eat, right?
Sure.
I've never really liked praying before you eat because I felt like just pray all the time, right? And you should just be thankful all the time, right? Why would I stop and do this thing? I'm thankful all throughout the day, and there's an aspect of that I like, an aspect of that, be thankful all the time, but there's tons of value to having little traditions and rituals, right, in your own personal life, in the life of your family, in the life of society, to remember and be thankful for things, right? Because it is really easy to take those things for granted. I mean, we say it all the time, but not everyone, in fact, many people, they have no idea where the next meal is coming from.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So to have that, to know that, or to at least be pretty confident of that, is a huge blessing. To just imagine not having that, right? And all the time your kind of thought is, okay, where's that next meal? Okay, where's that next meal? How do I get that next meal? That takes up a ton of your life and your thought, right? And fear and concern, right? To not have that, well, it seems like a super minor thing to us, is a huge thing.
Yeah.
Right.
So I was provoked by.
And there's a lot of things like that.
I was provoked by that week because that is a habit at our house.
Yeah.
It's so habitual that everyone knows the same language, and so all my kids have a day, right? And it goes with their, if we can, it goes with their name.
Yeah.
So Mathan Monday.
Yeah.
Timothy Tuesday. Wesley Wednesday.
Yeah. Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. And so they are assigned then to pray before we eat. And we do it at least 2 meals a day.
Yeah.
The catch now is, I know that's fostering something. We've been doing this a long time.
Yeah.
And I even kind of give them a hard time if like somebody's nibbling off their plate before we pray. I'm like, dude, come on.
Yeah.
Not harshly, just like,
sure.
Seriously.
Yeah.
Put the bread down.
You can wait.
Yeah, just 5 seconds. But they say the same thing. Like it's rote almost.
Yeah.
And so these days we try to challenge them to, okay, be creative.
Yeah.
Be thankful.
Yeah.
You don't have to say that thing. You can say that thing.
Right.
But be thankful.
Right.
And I think they're thankful.
Yeah.
I think it's genuine.
Yeah.
But I think you just get stuck for something to say, and they say the same thing all the time. But we've been doing that for a long time, and I wonder if it's causing some good.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sure.
I hope that
I'm sure it is.
Because you always wonder that kind
right.
of thing. Like, am I having a good impact? Is it possible? But yeah, I'm grateful for God's provision because I can remember, and I mean, I remember this vividly.
Right.
I was 27 and I was single and I went to work. I was working at a bookstore and I went to work with my last like little container of macaroni and cheese, and that was it.
Yeah.
I had nothing,
Yeah.
and payday was like some days coming. That was it, and I was like, "Oh man,
Yep.
am I gonna have to eat half now?"
Right.
Like, I can remember that day. I'm
Yeah.
sitting in the lunchroom, and I'd never been so bummed.
Yep.
And I loved what I was eating,
Yeah.
but I'd never been so bummed
Yeah.
about my prospects. Yeah, it was weird. Like, this is what it's like to be poor.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's,
Yeah.
yeah. And I was not walking with the Lord at the time, and I know it. I'm sure I didn't give thanks.
Yeah.
I'm sure I was worried,
Right.
right? So now I look and I'm like, like, I'm abundant. Everywhere I turn in my house, there's food stored somewhere.
Yeah.
I'm just so grateful.
Yeah.
I'm grateful. Thanksgiving's coming up. I know we're just going to sit around and eat because that's what Americans do, right?
Wonderful.
We're going to cook. It is. We're going to cook. We're going to eat. We're going to take a nap. We're going to get up and we're going to eat some more. I mean, that's my Thanksgiving.
That's the best. That's all I want to do for Thanksgiving.
I'm gonna trick myself into thinking I'm watching football and fall asleep in front of the TV. And I have to be thankful. I'm thankful for all of what happens that day.
Yeah. One of the days was in some way it was about the focus that we have and how that just kind of influences the way that we see things, right? And
Totally.
so what the things that we focus on are kind of what guide us, and I think it's really easy. I was just even as I was doing the opening for worship today, right? And I was thinking about Thanksgiving, thinking about the holidays, and I tried to use my language pretty clearly, right? Because right now we can be disappointed about our plans for Thanksgiving, right?
Oh yeah.
Because we might have a family member who's angry at us because they don't like what we kind of chose to do, or disappointed in us.
Mm-hmm.
And then we may be disappointed in somebody else, right? Because they're not letting us see our grandkids or whatever, right? And I try to be really clear. We might be disappointed with people who love us.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Because that's why it's a problem. Because we love each other a lot.
Yeah.
That's why it hurts. Because we love each other a lot and we want to be around each other. If you can focus on the love that we have for each other,
right,
rather than the disappointment,
right,
it's going to completely affect our attitude and how we react to those things, right? And just you take that through everything, right? As even going back to the beginning of, when we were talking a little bit about losing somebody who we love, right? If we just looked at that, they're gone, right? Mm-hmm. It'd be really easy to be angry and constant. But if you're gonna look at, the salvation that God gives us, if you're gonna look at the new heaven and the new earth, if you're gonna look at the resurrection of the dead, if you're gonna look at, how much God has been working through this person, right, and in this person, all that kind of stuff, it's a lot easier to see the truth, right, and see the bigger picture, which, man, I'd much rather look at the truth than some foolish lie that I'm telling myself. We've been going for a little bit, so just share your last thought, and we'll let people go off and talk.
Well, I guess I would land here. I appreciate, even though I've been slow to keep up sometimes with this little long series.
Yeah.
I appreciate it because two things are happening. One is it's reminding me to be thankful.
Yeah.
Like genuinely.
Yeah.
And it's also showing me the ways that I'm doing that.
That's actually a really good point.
And it's helpful to me because, we talked in the past about self-reflection and how dirty-faced we seem to ourselves.
Yep.
Right? So when it's just as simple as, well, bless God for the meal that you're about to enjoy, I'm like, oh, we do that.
Yeah.
And that helps me feel like, okay, I'm tracking.
Yep.
I'm tracking. So take joy in the ways that you're already grateful, and be thankful for that.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I love Thanksgiving. It's my favorite holiday, and not just because of the food, but I love thinking about these things.
Yeah.
I really do, and I think a thankful heart is a beacon of light in an otherwise yucky world.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love it. I love Thanksgiving.
Yeah, me too. It's a good one.
This is timely.
I'm right there with
Timely.
you. I'm not gonna add on because I think you kind of hit some of those things right on the head.